Sup fools, how's it going? Welcome to another video. It's been a while because I've been working on this crazy fucked up shot. So I just finished my short film LACTOSE. If you haven't seen it yet, stop the video, go to the link in the description and check it out. It's a masterpiece. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. It's very funny. It's basically about a couple. It's like a couple's date, and by accident, the main guy, he had a bite of cheese, but he's lactose intolerant, and then that happened. So go check it out because it's real good. But in today's video, I wanna walk you through a little my thought process, how I did all of that, because I've never done anything like this effect, like a liquid diarrhea explosion. I've never done anything like it. Like always when it comes to like visual effects, I usually, I stick to 2D visual effects, like After Effects, that kind of thing. But this is like a very complex 3D shot, and I really had to figure out how to do that because I had no idea. I shot this thing like a year ago. It's been a very long time, and the way I planned out to make this shot, it didn't work like that because I shot it. Check this out. This is the original shot how I shot this thing, and now the camera zooms back. It's all shot in slow motion, and I thought I'm gonna track all this footage, like all this stuff in there. I'm gonna just track it, and then I can just put my shit in it, and it's gonna work somehow. But no, it's absolutely not how I did it in the end. It was a good thought, but I had to learn the hard way that it's not how it's done. So now I'm gonna show you a little bit how it's done. It's not gonna be like a whole tutorial. I just want to walk you through my thought process. All that I did in Blender, which is very cool. Blender is a free 3D software. Anybody can use it. You do need some kind of a powerful computer, but here you can see the scene. This is what it actually looks like. On the left here you can see what it looks like through the actual camera, but when you actually look closer, like at my guy, he is three-dimensional. See, he is basically molded three-dimensionally. It doesn't look great from the side, but it doesn't matter because the camera is just looking from the front. And that's true for all of those things. Like all this background here, it is half CG. It is real. I started, let me show you. I started with just a picture. This is just a picture. I removed all the furniture from the scene and just put everything away, because then I knew I could place my 3D models in post, like having fake furniture basically. But I needed this picture so I could project everything on a simple geometry that I have. This little wall here, I can add this background, those little things. I had to build very simple geometry, and I projected this photo, so I have, because we see the kitchen too a little, so I have all this information of the geometry and also the background, just as this layer behind, so I can use all this information. So from the camera point of view, it looks all real, but actually it's just a photo projected on simple geometry. Here you can see what that actually looks like. It's just a box here, a box here. All this complex furniture I added in post. Like I modeled those monitors just to have like monitors, table, another table, so it kind of looks like the real furniture I had in the scene, but it's not perfect, but nobody cares. And a little bit of the kitchen. So when you go through the scene, but you see that everything interacts with each other. Like the diarrhea climbs up the wall and basically also collides with the kitchen counter. So all that is actually happening. Same with the tables and the chairs, and I made those fall by hand. And yeah, in the end, I got a pretty cool scene. Took a long time to make, also a long time to render, but it also took a very long time because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I basically started from scratch because I have like almost no knowledge about 3D stuff. Here I was looking up tutorials, like here, this guy, shout out to what's his face, CG Cookie. He made like this cool tutorial on how to make liquids animations. He made like a cup of coffee, and this is basically how I started. I just tried to see, okay, how did he do that? Coffee obviously looks a little different than diarrhea, but that was a good starting point, you know. And I can show you real quick how this stuff is done, just generally. It's not going to be like a in detail tutorial, but just that you get the idea how to make those things. So this is basically how you start any scene. So this is a box, we can just delete that. So what we need for like diarrhea, we need a domain. That's what they call it, a domain. Make a cube, you know, scale it up. So this is going to be a domain. A third object we need is the liquid's emitter, where the liquid is coming from. So we can just make, yeah, let's just make another cube. This is where the liquid is going to come from. This is where the liquid can stay in, and this is where the liquid is going to collide with. So now we have to set it up. Bake it. So now we see this little thing here. So the computer is basically calculating how it's a simulation, how it's going to interact with each other, what's actually happening. This is what we're baking. So we have to do that every time we change the settings, and then eventually when it gets to 100, that is like very fast right now. When I did the liquid, the diarrhea, only this process took like 8 hours because it took a long time. So that's what we got. You see this little cube, and basically it just drops a bunch of liquids. So I just rendered 60 frames for now. And that obviously is not what we want. So now we have to free this thing again and play with the settings a little. I believe here in the flow behavior, it's set to the geometry. So just the cube basically becomes the liquid and then just falls. So it actually has to be inflow, not outflow. That was the issue. Now, again, bake it all. And that's how it goes. It's like try and error, keep baking until in the end you eventually get the result you want. It's a tedious process, but that's the thing. Like, I did that for the first time and I didn't know what I was doing. Everything what I'm doing now is like basically the second time I'm doing that, and I still, you know, struggle here and there to find the right options. And eventually, yeah, it's like, it's always the same thing when you make something like that. It's like, to make it perfect or like good enough, you have to push this fuck it moment as far as possible, so you can keep working on it until it gets better and better until you get a result you want. So, see what we got here. This is our thing, and it drops. And see, this is our domain basically. This is where all this stuff is happening. And when you look closer, you see this mesh. It doesn't look right, see? But there's a few things you can do to make it right. The first thing is always you shade smooth, so it kind of looks like more organic. But then other things, like if I adjusted this resolution, not 64, if I did 1000, then it would be like super liquidy. But then it would take way longer to render. And for example, my diarrhea shot, I used, I think, a resolution of 400. That's why also it took longer, just for an experiment. So you see the difference between this and like a higher resolution. I'm gonna free it and just gonna turn this to, let's say, 200. So that's gonna take technically 4 times longer, I think. This is how it calculates. But yeah, this is basically how you create a liquid simulation, and this is just the basis, you know. So first I need to build the room, you know, I do all that, and then I have to do you know, this liquid simulation so it interacts with my environment. So all this, just like for this last 30 seconds or 30-second clip in the end of my short film, just that took me like 6 weeks. Like, I had a lot of help of my brother Matt. He is better with like 3D stuff because that's what he does for a living, like animation, 3D design, that kind of thing. But also everything we did in this project was also new to him. But definitely shout out to Matt. You definitely should check out his work because he is a very talented motherfucker. But yeah, this is like super exciting stuff because learning all that opens, as a filmmaker, it opens so many doors, like so many things where I always had to compromise because I couldn't do things. Let's say making a car float around, you know, it's like I could never do that before because I'm like an After Effects person. There's ways to do certain things, but there's like so many limitations. Now learning 3D, I can actually make it happen with the proper skill, of course. So I have to, it's basically learning a new language. I have to learn all of that, but it's super exciting because it's like so cool. You can create things out of nowhere. It's like basically being God, and nothing is sexier than being God, right? But yeah, so it's very exciting stuff. Problem is, of course, it takes a long time, but the good thing is once I have those skills and, you know, people pick up on that I can do those things, and they hire me for the work, then I can actually, you know, make pretty good money. Let's see what we got here. We have here, it's coming out, smack it. Wow, it's pretty cool, and it just keeps flowing. And I just rendered until frame 120, so anything after that it just stops. But for anything before, it looks pretty good. And yeah, and this is basically what it looks like. And now I could, you know, give it like a you know, material. Let's make the base color, let's make it yellow. So we had diarrhea in the other shot, now we're gonna make urine, because urine is funny. And you know, and then I'm gonna play with the roughness and with the shininess. I could even make it, if I crank up the metallic, it's like liquid gold suddenly, you know. So golden shower, it's a golden shower. That's funny. Then when I actually want to see what it would look like in the end, I just have to set up a few things. Delete my light source, so now it's just dark in here. But I can just give it like a HDR. Those are cool because it's like basically 360 images of anything. Let's do outdoor. Let's do indoor. Indoor is usually more interesting. So basically has like a sphere image, and it basically interacts. It gives us light information, it gives us reflection information. So it basically just makes it look more real because those photos are real, you know. So when I put it here, you can see around us there's stuff going on, and that is going to interact with our liquid here. So now when I render this image, we see what we get. But you know, adding like motion blur and depth of field and stuff like that always increases the render time too. This is my final image, and that took 2 minutes and 6 seconds to render just for one image. But I'm gonna render the entire sequence out. I'm gonna do it off camera so you don't have to watch that. I'm gonna do that so you can see what it actually looks like. But yeah, this is pretty cool what we can create in such a small amount of time. And then, you know, the difficult part is really to make this look like, well, in that case a golden shower, but in my diarrhea shot, how to make it look like shit and diarrhea and stuff like that. And the problem is, when you do stuff like that, you always want to look up references. What does it actually look like in nature and real life? And unfortunately, there is not much reference for that. But funny enough, I was looking for reference, and what I found was this funny clip I assume it's from a movie or so, and there's actually a guy in the bathroom who has explosive diarrhea. And so I could look at what that looks like and simulate all this in my shot. That in particular is done in I think it's photo what is it, practically, like they actually use real liquid, so it looks different. But this is a pretty hilarious shot actually. Yeah, hilarious. So basically I try to simulate what the material of the diarrhea looks like in real life and try to simulate that in my shot, and that's what I got. We can move on so I can show you the rest of the process, how to do these things. Okay, I told you we have to build our room in 3D space and with like pretty much simple geometry. And I want to show you very quickly, again, it's not a tutorial, just very quickly how this is done. So we start with the regular Blender scene, delete our cube, delete the camera, we don't need nothing in our scene. And we have this little software here. Now it gets complicated a little because we have to work with the different software. And so I have this room here. I just took a picture randomly from Google. This is what it looks like. And if I wanted to use this here as a scene in 3D space, let's say I make like a hospital horror film or so, then I can just put this in my Blender program and basically build simple geometry and use this in the final scene. When the thing is, when you make scenes like that, you always have to look out for stuff like that, like stuff in the foreground. It's never good, because basically how you do this is you project your image onto your geometry you have. So basically all this is going to be flat on the ground. There's not going to be actual, I don't even know what that is, a card in there. It's just going to be a projected on the ground, or even here a little bit on the wall, and you don't want that. But I'm just using this image for like you know, just for like video purposes. Yeah, so what I need to do here, why I need this particular software, I'm gonna use this to create my 3D space, to set up my camera in the way it has to look perfectly. So I have like 3 sliders here. I have the red one, which is for the X axis. I have the green one for the Y, and I have the Z for top and bottom. Basically I'm looking for lines here. For example, this one is easy. I have the Y, it starts here, and so I have a perfect line, so the camera is going to know, okay, this is my Y-axis, and I have 2 different ones. So I'm going to have one on the top and one on the bottom. So now my camera is going to know, okay, this is the Y-axis, because we're working in a 3D space. Like we have X, Y is depth, X is this way, and Z is up and down. So now the problem is I need to find like a X thing, so I'm gonna just use the thing in the back. The problem is you want those to be as long as possible, and this is like very short in the back, so it would be better to have something closer. When I'm looking, can't really find anything left and right, so I'm gonna just use this here. I hope you understand what I'm doing. Like, if you have any questions, you can always let me know in the comments. I'm very willing to answer all of them. Is this Y here? I mean Z. I didn't just Z it. I have Z. Basically, I'm looking for lines which make sense, so my camera knows exactly where is up, where is down, where is left, where is right. Let's call it a hospital. Safe. Now this thing is safe, so I'm going to go back to Blender and I can import this F-Spy. So now here I have my image here, and this is basically a camera. This is already a camera set up. See, for some reason it's very stretched. but it's cool. And now what I have to do is build basic geometry. We start with just a plane on the ground. So this is just a plane. Scale it up. Let me have a second camera view. So now I can set up my floor. Now what I have to do is like make the walls and make the ceiling. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to click on those two edges and bring them up until they're lined up with the ceiling. See, right at the edge there. So I'm going to close the ceiling. I'm going to close the room in the end. So now, so the camera's looking through here, you can see. This is actually what it looks like. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna apply another modifier, UV project. Under those settings, I will select my camera, and here I have to add the aspect ratio so it's perfectly aligned, which is 1000 by 800. I'm going to do that. 1800. So now, as you can see, we don't see nothing, but it's an easy fix. We just have to give it a new material, shader editor. This is where we have all our materials, and we don't need this bad boy, but what we do need, see, we just deleted the material, it's gone. We do need our image. This is basically just the picture here. I just brought it back in here, connect this to my surface, and now as you can see, yeah, now we're in here, and this is like basically projected on our simple geometry. Like I said, this picture is not perfect for what we actually would need to try, because we have this thing here and basically it just puts it on the ground and it's not what we want. But it is pretty cool. With this technique we can basically create any room like from a photo and make it look real-ish. This doesn't look real, it still looks pretty trippy. Yeah, and now basically my job is to make all those doors and extrude them. I'm not gonna do it properly now, but for example, if I wanted to make a door now here, I could easily do that if I just, you know, delete this. You know, there's a hole in here, you know. It's obviously, you have to be a little more exact than I just did, but then, you know, I could make another room. When you walk through this, I could look into another room. But this is basically how I built all this, you know, this very simple geometry. Like I align this door and so on, and go from there. And it's pretty cool because you can basically do anything. Like I have like full control over the lighting, and that's pretty dope. So now you see everything is dark, but I can just add like a light source. That's just a point light. There he is. So now I have a little light here, and let's crank it up. See? So I can basically light my scene in post, you know, so I don't need any light information. So that's the thing, when the pictures you use, you always want like even lighting, so you can light it in post if you have actual light sources in there. Like for example, I do have one back here. There is a light on the ceiling, so that's not optimal. So if I pick my scenes, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, so here in my information I can adjust to see how reflective all that is. I don't want all this. I want the kind of reflection, so basically would adjust that in the material options, and I can do with the scene now whatever I want. I don't know, let's add the monkey here, you know, so now I have a big monkey, Howard Suzanne in here. you know. And let's put the light right here. Let's do it on top of him. So you have shadows and everything. See, it looks so creepy. So now I can do it to see whatever I want. It's pretty sick. Yeah, so that's basically what I did with my diarrhea scene. I built simple geometry of my living room, and then I added some models, had the liquid simulation, put it all together until I got the final scene. One thing I would have liked to do is a trick which is pretty cool. You can add haze to your scene. I couldn't do it in this particular scene because I didn't have haze in there before, but if I did, I could make very cool effects. Let me show you real quick. It's just a little extra thing. Cube. It's just a cube right now, but I can give it a new material. I'm gonna delete this little bad boy, and I'm gonna add bloom scatter. Like this in volume. Let's say 0.6, 3.1. So now I basically have haze in my scene, and that's pretty cool because now I can make some moody stuff. That's how I got the idea for this shot in the first place. To have like a hospital scene where the protagonist is like walking through it and maybe sees stuff somewhere in the back going on, some craziness. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And you see how this volumetric like inflicts the light, so it basically you see this bloom. It's pretty sick. I can't wait to use that for a scene. And that's basically it for this video. I know it was like all over the place, but it's such a complex process, and I'm still trying to figure out how to do these things. But I'm very excited to make those, and maybe you've seen it in my shorts already on my YouTube channel or Instagram. I like to make those little horror pieces. It doesn't have to be horror, but those little VFX things. And it's so much fun, and I can't wait to make more. And eventually when I get better, I can make actual tutorials on how to do those things properly, because quite frankly, I have no idea what I'm doing. Just that you get an idea of what I'm doing right now. Exciting stuff. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the content, make sure to subscribe. Check out my my short film, of course, LACTOSE X. Next short film is already in the making. Very exciting things are happening. And see you in the next video. Doo-doo-doo.